Hey, everybody, welcome back to another all new X's for Podcast Live, your live premier comic podcast for modern Marvels, Chrono Skimming Classics, and more. I'm Nico, and you guys can find me at Nico Action on Twitter, Instagram, Hive, and more. That's NICOACTION.
Hey everybody, it's Nathan. Apparently I'm stuck in the Black Lodge. You can find me at Dazzler AOA on pretty much all of the socials.
And I'm TK, still sitting at the Green Lagoon, but you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Hive, Tumblr, wherever you want at XNateXGrayX.
And as always, you can check the show out at xsforpodcast.com and X's for Podcast on most social medias. And this is the second amazing week of this new format. We're doing it live. I'm so excited. We're having such a good time. And this week we're doing it magic.
Magic is the way to go. Jazz hands for magic.
Jazz hands for magic. I'm all about the magic. We've got
It's
some
a fully
defenders.
magic week too. You know, some of these books sometimes are more, hell. But this week it's a little less hell for everybody and a little more spell.
Pretty magical.
Yeah, we have an amazing docket. We have Defenders Beyond. We have Strange. We have Strange Academy. We have Midnight Suns, and we have Ghost Rider. It's an incredible array of magical characters, and I can't wait to get into it. So let's jump right in with Defenders Beyond number 5. Hey, everybody. So we're back to talk some Defenders Beyond number 5. And for that, I'm going to entrust everything over to the person who's been leading it this whole time, Steve.
Hello, it's me, Steve. And you can find me on Mastodon, Tumblr, Hive, Twitter, etc. at Howdyduda. That's HOWDYDUDA. Today we're here to talk about Defenders number 5, Keter, by Al Ewing, Javier Rodriguez, and VC's Joe Caramagna. I'll let everybody else introduce themselves.
Raven, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Hi, I'm Raven, aka Dame. Oh God, even I'm forgetting my new branding. Well, old branding, whatever. Sanguine Threads, come find me. I'm a dork, I know.
Hey everybody, I'm Jake. You can find me on Twitter at Omega Sentinel. That's OH Mega Sentinel. And you can also find me on Instagram now at The Heart Farmer. That's my old handle. It's my current handle. And maybe I'll see you there.
And this is Juancho. You can find me on Twitter at Lost in Krakoa.
All right. Well, welcome everybody back. It's good to see you all again. It's good to see all you listeners out there. You're all looking great, beautiful. Just to start off with Defenders Beyond number 5, we have 2 epigraphs to lead off this issue. Things for us to think about as we go through. The first is by Albert Einstein. The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion that stands at the cradle of true art and true science. Whoever does not know it and can no longer wonder, no longer marvel, is as good as dead, and his eyes are dimmed. Classic. The second is by Eugene Debs, the father of American socialism. While there is a lower class, I am in it. While there is a criminal element, I am of it. And while there is a soul in prison, I am not free. Followed by a short epigraph from our hero of the story, Loki. That's the way it goes. I want to start off by asking everybody what they think about these epigraphs and how they relate to this issue in particular. I mean, Loki, there's no coincidence that Loki and Eugene Debs are on the same page here, but I want to hear all of your opinions about about these little short bits from Albert and Eugene.
I think Albert's up his own ass, but it's like, I'm trying to say the most profound thing. I'm like, dude, seriously? Well, that, and I mean, I just learned about how much of Albert Einstein's work is actually his wife's work.
Oh,
But she never got credited in any way for it. She did so much of the work for a lot of his theories and the equations and whatnot. And yeah, she didn't get any fucking credit for it. And I'm just like, you know what? We're having that day today, aren't we? Welcome to the coffee soaking in.
you know, I thought that both of them, both epigraphs, well, Debs and Einstein strike two of the major themes of this run. One is this idea of exploration and humanity sort of stretching out towards the numinous, the indescribable, the transcendent. And the other is this idea that, you know, the closer you get to that, the more you kind of see how iterative things are. The, you know, that principle of as above, so below that you see in lots of religious traditions, that you see in occultism, that you see in you know, esoteric Kabbalism as well, which is a big part of this run. This idea that while there is a lower class, I am in it. It's very much like the seed of all creation, the seed of all transcendence lives in the lowest part of reality, lives in all parts of reality, and therefore like the lowest fundament of reality. I also really love Debs because my grandfather was named after, my mother's stepfather was named after Eugene Debs, so I feel a personal connection to that quote. I think he was the first person to run for president on a socialist platform too.
Yeah, I think he ran 5 times, I believe was the case.
Yeah, he didn't.
I think he ran from prison at one point too.
Yeah.
So
I personally love how Loki the
running from prison.
I was gonna say, I love how Loki the storyteller is just so short and so sweet. He's like, bam, or they're like, bam, bam. That's all I'm saying.
I do love the Eugene Debs quote. That's that, because it's one of those, I'm not going to forget the people who are at the bottom because they directly affect me, even if it is, you know, by many steps removed. There is a cause and effect. There is no, you know, perfectly free and untouched without having to deal with people who are in the lower social strata, because they are the cogs that help make the machine run. They make it so that your life is more comfortable. They're picking your fruit. They are, you know, delivering your goods. They're doing all the small work that, you know, a much more rich person who doesn't have to do all those things, they wouldn't touch all that. So, you know, he's right. The lowest have the most that's bad that's going to happen to them. And as long as that's happening to them, you can't actually be as free as you think you are.
mm-hmm.
Yep. While there is a single soul in hell, no one else is free. And that comes back again and again in this. And Jake and Raven, I do like how both of those tie into the character of One Above All and Loki specifically. You know, we're reminded to marvel, we're reminded to be intrigued by the mystery, but we're also reminded that as we look up, we should also look outward and around us. Juancho, did you have any feelings specifically about this?
Mostly about the first quote from Einstein. Just that I would like to make it more relevant for this comic. I would substitute art for magic, because this is a comic, and the previous one, Defenders, the previous Defenders run, is basically about the melding of both magic and science in the Marvel universe. And I think that quote like encapsulates that like, just as Doctor Strange always looked for the like origin of things in magic, Adam Brashear does it in science, and they're always looking to solve those mysteries, those fundamental mysteries in the Marvel universe. And we got that interaction with the One Above All today in this comic.
And something that we come back to time and again in Al Ewing's work, but especially in his Defenders work, is this idea that at the crux of science and magic is storytelling. You know, the thing that ties it all together, the thing that ties everything together in this universe, because it's a universe of stories, like specifically the Marvel universe. And that's something that time and again is hammered home in this final issue with having Loki be the hero that is at the underpinning of everything here, the vision of the one above all, which I am going to have to reread all of Immortal Hulk now with Defenders in mind and keeping in mind that these are the same character. But the idea that, you know, the one above all is a painter painting on the walls, you know, the tree of life, and that there's more painting that we have no understanding of that is beyond us and beyond even the one above all, something that intrigues and mystifies the creator, and something that maybe would intrigue and mystify, you know, Jack Kirby as he was doing a lot of the fundamental work to build this particular Marvel universe.
Well, isn't that like, that's kind of the point too, is that the one above all is Jack Kirby / substitute any creator, any creative at Marvel who has done any work to like add to the Marvel universe. Like that is an avatar of every Marvel creator. Because, you know, when Brashear approaches and says, you know, reproaches it and says, I think that there's more above you. That's essentially, he's pointing out to our reality. He's pointing out to the world that created his world and saying, you know, I see that there's something there that we can't touch. And I think that is, to me, some of the most powerful storytelling, when a story can turn around and look back at you and say like, hey, I see you there. I see what's happening here. I understand the nature of my reality. But what's the nature of yours? And I love a book that really challenges us like that.
Yeah. The idea that the comic book and the comic book creators themselves would look outward and marvel at something beyond even them. Mm-hmm. And that is the mystery that really intrigues them, is the things that happen outside the comic page.
And I think one of the things that's really interesting is that so many of the things that source back to those two quotes really is about the fact that creationism is often like a Matryoshka doll, where in comics, there's always something that came before. And no matter what rung we're looking at this from, there's always going to be a sort of a lowest class of highest class, for lack of a better term. You know, when you're talking about the Blue Marvel and you're talking about Loki, you're talking about gods among men. But then these forces that are so much greater than them, it's this echoing greaterness of, I think, even the sense that there is no limit to how much greater origin can always be. And the Defenders Beyond, just continuously going beyond. I think one of the things that those quotes sets up is that like echo of just the endlessness of this cycle, which I think rebounds from the end back to the first issue even.
And I think you can kind of tie that back even further to the both, you know, the quote, the Einstein quote and the Debs quote, and how those play with Jewish mysticism, which Ewing is citing very clearly, like right in the cover here, and also, you know, just in the names of these issues, in some of the like art that we see, you know, Kabbalistic texts really, when they get to their most esoteric, start saying like, we go into the infinite that we can't ever comprehend, but we could keep going through. And this book is trying to get us to that same idea of like, there's no place where you reach a stopping point that you've seen the person that is fully at the top and everybody else is below that person. And I think what's equally interesting about that is that Jewish mystics that came up with a lot of these ideas were a certain class of men who had certain privileges, who had access to education that nobody else had. And they essentially said, nobody else can understand the mystic secrets but us. Mm-hmm. And it's a very classist, unfair trope. At the same time, we saw in the late 90s, Jewish mysticism get really commodified and turned into something pretty cheap and tawdry, in which those...
like a ray of light.
I was waiting for it. And so, you know, there is a degree to which, exactly. And so there's a degree to which I believe the mysteries of Jewish mysticism should be for everybody, but they should not be for everybody that's not willing to do the work. And I just think that interplay that we see basically on the page here is really fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to add something that Nikos words reminded me of, and it's like we sort of saw the cosmological argument playing out on a page here, like who's the creator, behind the creator, and so on, so on, so on. When Adam says that no, there's something beyond you, to the one above all, is that there's someone that's creating you, and
Mhm.
who's creating them, and who's creating them, and so on and so forth. And I think that's very cool that we're seeing that play out in a Marvel comic, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like just
Also, go ahead.
that's it.
Yeah, it's iterative. It's it's every level of reality reflects the one above or below it. It's then there's infinite iterations. It's kind of multiversal in a sense too. If you think about like the way Marvel was talking about their stacked realities back in the day.
This also,
And I think that's where
interties-
Ant-Man Quantumania is going to end up going.
this
I'm
also
not even
ties
joking.
into,
Like it'll be a little pop version of it, but that's they're essentially
Oh no.
when they get to the quantum realm, the fact that we know that they're going to be seeing Kang, like we are going to get to a point of like it's not that they're actually getting smaller, it's that realities are stacked like that.
As long as they're not like we've landed in Yesod.
Yeah, I don't think they will be
Quantumania.
saying that in any Marvel
Probably
movie.
not.
Until
not gonna
I
happen in the
start
Disney
running
movie.
the whole game, I don't think they're going to be saying that. But give me time; I'm taking us there.
I'll give you time.
This all ties in really nicely with Al Ewing's like repeated emphasis on characters who are aching to escape their predestined roles within the status quo of Marvel Comics, from Galactus to Taya in this issue to the Beyonder, as we see the Beyonder, not a Beyonder, to especially Loki.
Definite
And
article.
I think Loki is the crux of that, because we constantly see these characters who are trying to escape out of the status quo of what they're trapped in by the iterative nature of Marvel Comics. But Al Ewing's work is also a part of that, from Secret Wars onward, and has this like iterative nature. So we see Loki and we see Galactus and we see all these people escape briefly from their roles, but they eventually must be subsumed back in, because, as the one above all says really interestingly in this issue, Galactus is of his design. I know this is just a service thing, but I love the idea of God looking at this woman whose husband we don't know and the father of her baby we don't know, and saying, "Your baby is of my design. Don't worry."
Like,
really-
I wanted
I
your
really
baby
love
to be evil shit.
I like that read a lot.
That's super interesting, especially when we see like the Lifebringer, but like so there's that, and then Loki is constantly being trapped into this. Cloud has escaped to the point of becoming an archetype, and Loki has escaped in such a way that Loki becomes the shape that the universe was trying to bend Loki back into. But that doesn't mean that Loki isn't still the same person inside and cannot yet come back out of round again, as we see at the very end. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things in this whole comic, is that Loki chooses to go back into the hell of being a person that they don't want to be anymore, specifically like an only he-him character, and a character that sometimes falls back into villainy and making mistakes, but with the same knowledge of like the 05 X-Men going back after all new X-Men. I think that's such a clever trick, and I love that Al Ewing is picking up on that here in order to make an iteration that it's like an eternal recurrence, except for each recurrence is a little bit different, and each recurrence you can have some freedom within those bounds.
And I think he wrote himself a narrative backdoor. Should anybody wish to, Loki is at times going to be reset to a status quo based on the powers that be not necessarily being as comfortable with a they-them Loki. But if you leave a back door in the narrative, when a writer comes in who has the clout to say, I want to write Loki like that, it's not going to be something that comes out of nowhere and that, leaves fans the ability to say, like, I don't get why this is happening. This just came out of nowhere. I don't like it. It's going to have precedent, and it will kind of flow seamlessly into the narrative should somebody be willing and able to take it there.
And now it's an important part of the cosmology of the transition from the 7th to 8th universe, which is, again, seemingly Al Ewing's favorite plaything.
I think that I think that maybe Loki's most heroic stroke, this exchange between Loki and Bashir about, what would it mean to not escape, to not take liberation, to remain and help others attain liberation. I love the idea that Loki took a bodhisattva vow, which I think also really ties back to that Debs quote. So long as as anyone is in hell, I'm there with them. It's very
and
that.
Steely Dan.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and Steely Dan. So
the foundational principle of like liberation for all in general, right? Like this is such an important thing, is that we can't just have liberation for ourselves and say fuck the rest of the world. We have to work for freedom for all of us.
Well, and it's recognizing the core of divinity that exists in all creation, in all aspects of creation. And Loki is essentially saying, I will I will choose heroism and I will come back and I will not just escape for my own design. I will go and help others. And I think that choice and that sacrifice is probably, I mean, I think it's probably one of the biggest that Loki has ever made on the page by my rendering and understanding. And it
sacrifice
softens
for
me
other
so
people.
hard to Loki.
I find it funny, but funny in a good way that even Loki forgot the instrument of their own salvation until they got to the 8th universe, and then they're like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "I forgot." The
Yeah,
horn
the
was
idea
actually
that
a part
Loki's
of the
had nature
Infinity Mask. I was like, "Oh shit, that's right," which means Loki was at an even footing with the one above all. So they had the actual power to write their own narrative, and they decided to write themselves back in.
TK, it's a little like Barbalith. Don't you remember?
Yeah. And I think, I think that is another influence that Ewing is pulling from. This is a very more heavy book. There is a lot of Promethea in this, but I do think, especially in this last issue, he's pulling from a lot of the concepts that Morrison was pulling from with the Invisibles.
It's very interesting how a lot of that comic character meets its creator moment is one that you get from Morrison and Moore and Ewing, who are three people who are clearly very steeped in esotericism, very well read at the very least. But I think, I mean, maybe it was Morrison who was the first one to do that in Animal Man, but maybe someone can correct me on that. But I think there's something really funny about the fact that it's these three people who are very much steeped in Western esotericism, who are saying like it's a compelling thing when a character meets its creator and is angry at them and has to have conflict with them and like really like call them to account for all of the torture that they're being put through.
Yeah, Dad.
Speaking of which, Adam Brashear is such a fucking badass in this issue. He fucks
So good.
Not only
Good.
not only saying, "Hey, I actually don't think you're like the one above all," but like more importantly, when he says, "I don't believe in any god who tests his creations," Loki, I've been tested enough. All of humanity has. That is, I just want to give him a kiss. That is amazing.
And it's so amazing because Adam is so free of tropism.
Yeah.
Like the Blue Marvel is such a uniquely celebrated but unrecognized idea in the Marvel stratosphere, where so many people come to him with such a blank slate. So many people come to Tigra with, I would say, somewhat steeped in canon misconceptions, but also sort of like an unwillingness to learn. There isn't enough of Adam to learn yet. What there is spectacular, but he's a character that deserves 1,000 issues and has 85. And using this as an opportunity to say, this is how this man would interact with the entirety of the universe in front of him. The measure of this man is his ability to breathe it all in. It was just such a masterstroke in letting us know who Adam was by showing us what he can handle. And I just thought that was marvelous.
And the nice thing about Ewing writing Adam is like, with as few appearances as Adam has had, Ewing's probably racked up the most appearances, most of them. And that's something I love about Ewing. Like he is, if nothing, he is a creature of habit. He loves certain characters, and he's gonna bring them into like almost everything. Like you can tell he loves Adam. You can tell he loves Monica because she brings her into a lot of stuff. You can tell he loved Harpy because he brought her back for Defenders after Immortal. And he loves building these little pieces of lore within his stories that he continues in other stories that gives his stories a sort of like a universe feel to it. There's like almost like an Al Ewing universe of stories out there. And I'm just glad we get to live in a universe where we get to read them.
Yeah.
Well, and I guess my big question is he about to get the Aaron treatment where all of this cosmological work he's doing on Marvel's narrative back end, he gets a crossover event that is the crossover. What's that?
He needs to, I hope.
It seems like they're building to that.
Yeah.
It seems like they're building to something. There's a big cliffhanger at the end of this book.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, or honestly, maybe they're not. Maybe it is a quiet, private, like the ones who follow it get it and everybody else just doesn't have that same experience. I would love
We know you like it. No more. We know you like it.
It'll be a
Did
secret
you see
Defenders
that
book.
crown?
Yeah.
Did you
Yes.
see that crown? That
Yeah.
crown
Oh.
tells me there is something big on the horizon.
Yeah.
this book is hella unfinished in the sense
Oh,
that
yeah.
like
Yeah.
there seems to be a third act that is
Oh,
just
and it-
like
It's going to be
just hinted at
secret
now.
event, secret
And, like, I
Defenders,
gotta go
and no
and
one's
reread
going to know
Defenders
what
number
happened.
2.
That's it's going to have its own world.
We're talking about the crown. Like, I can't. Like, I don't think we can. Like, I feel so bad. We've talked about a lot about Ewing's contributions to this book, but we haven't talked about Javier. Right? Do you guys'
Yes, please.
contributions
Yeah.
to this book?
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, he is credited as a co-storyteller. Like, his art really
Oh yeah.
does take Ewing's beautiful prose and elevate it to that next level. Like everything from his unstandard page layout to flipping back from unstandard to standard. I love that and how it tells different parts of the stories. Even to like the coloring and the lettering in this, like this art team really plays along so well with and it just elevates it. This wouldn't be as grand of a book without this.
Yeah, I don't think it would be this book at all. I mean, on an obvious level, it wouldn't be this book at all without the same artist, but like this story would not be the same. I mean, like when I saw the Kirby monsters pouring out of the one above all, like
Yeah.
beautifully detailed. Not since Jack Kirby have I seen any of these monsters come to life with such dynamism and such like force and ferocity. It's amazing to see. And like the visual tricks of pulling out the tree of life to be 3 to 4 times longer with the different colors, it just hints at so much that I can only guess at. There's so much story being told in the art on these pages, and it's so important. Like that crown and the McDonald's world.
Yeah,
I love that.
I love
And then
that it's the consumerism, it's the
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba,
aristocracy
loving it.
versus like the lowest class. It's the environment versus basically major industry of consumption like fossil fuels. Then you have the worship of basically a death cult.
Yeah,
as
it looks like the worm from the Three Mothers.
Right. Yes, I was thinking exactly that. And then you have that beautiful, space and what's beyond it. I'm like, I love the symbolism so much. The art is so delicious because not only does it harken back to like the 1960s, 1970s style of art, it then has no problem moving forward and using a bunch of different art styles to get the story across and then sliding right back into where it was. And I'm like, it's done so well. Like, it keeps me on edge in a great way.
Wacho, I would love to hear your thoughts on this issue's art.
I mean, what can I say about the art other than it's like incredible? It's probably the best art we've seen a comic in 2022 by far.
I would have to agree. I think Javier Rodriguez is maybe my favorite artist working for Marvel Comics right now.
And-
Tried Moore is coming out with Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise, so that'll be interesting. Finally,
Oh,
some
that's
competition.
So good.
But I was
Fred Moore is
just
like everything.
thinking
Yeah.
that like this comic goes a lot with Jack Kirby, and what Raven just said is that this style harkens back to the 60s, like the Kirby style. And I'm not sure the story would work the same way, and it would hit the same way if it didn't have that like Kirby-esque sort of thing.
Yeah,
And now I'm sad that Al Ewing and Jack Kirby never got to write a book together.
what a shame.
I bet Darwin Cook would have been a good artist for a project like this too.
Yeah. It's interesting how Jack Kirby's specific visual tics have to be like a fundamental symbolic code for Marvel magic.
Well,
Like
he
when you
created
see
a whole
Kirby
symbolic
dots,
vocabulary.
He did.
Like
when you see Kirby dots, you know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Kirby
a
Crackle.
magical, symbolic, mystical language of comics in the same way that like, the tarot is for esotericism. And I love that it's made use of in these, like throughout Defenders and Defenders Beyond, the color symbolism, the shapes, the specific visual tics have been just as important as the tarot or Kabbalah or any various other things I may have missed.
Well, I also love that there's an understanding of the evolution of things. When you have, only that much knowledge of something, that's the world that you operate within. But as you get more knowledge, you expand. So I love, like, if you go back to when they meet the one above all, usually you'd only see like blue, yellow, and red as like these are the colors I work with. I love the fact that they added in the cerulean, the green, because I'm like, yes, because as we expanded our knowledge of art and how we could print and change color and expand depth and whatnot, they added different colors, or they tweaked the colors we had, because their standard blue, yellow, and red weren't cutting it as far as making a fully realized, in-depth, realistic, or even fantastical comic. So I love it. I love it.
I'm so sorry.
Image. Oh,
We're doing a segment rollover. We're gonna have to do some last thoughts, guys. No, we're good. I'm just gonna pivot back to Steve for some last thoughts.
Oh well, I for myself, I think that we have only to look in the direction of Al Ewing's favorite word, next. We have to look at what comes next, and we have to say, like, what do we think the Dominion is? What do we think this Enigma is? What are your thoughts on that? I think where you see 4, you have to look for the 5th business. I keep thinking of Tigra drawing that crown card. I want to hear your thoughts. Nathan.
I gotta say, love it. Love that team together. I love what we're hopefully getting set up for in the future. Al Ewing is one of the writers who I can trust to keep a plot thread and not like forget about it for like 3 years and then, oh, hey, this is for plot thread I had over here. You remember it? No, nobody remembers it, but no, everybody remembers anything Al Ewing wants you to remember. You're going to remember because he is going to keep bringing it up. Can't wait to see what's next.
TK.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a really fantastic book. I encourage readers to really pull the threads of the influences that Ewing has woven into this. Read up on Jewish mysticism, read up on the tarot, read up on writers like Alan Moore and Promethea, Grant Morrison and The Invisibles. There's so many great influences in this book, and they lead to really just this incredible knowledge and philosophy. And I love the way that Ewing has referenced it. I do kind of like, I stand by that point of like, there was a point at which ideas like these got really commodified in a terrible way, but this kind of pop art that is accessible to everybody and can be the first step towards a real engagement with this stuff at a deep level is so important, and it should be for everyone. So, if any of this resonated with you, get even more into it, because there's so much more to read and learn.
I think for me, there's so much that has been left unsaid so far that there needs to be some sort of tie-in or wrap with it, because it's like this close is a little too soft. This is not that Ewing ever ties everything up in a tiny little nice package. Far from it. But I'm like, this is too soft. There's something more. There's definitely something more, and I can't wait to see it, because it not only speaks to our real life and kind of how things evolve and become and whatnot, but it also speaks to like comic books as a whole and kind of where they're going. And I want to see it. I want to see this all tied together, and it's so delicious. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Jake.
So the crown would probably be spirit, right? If the other 4 elements represent the 4 traditional classic elements. So whatever that means, spirit. Also, I really hope that in the next Defenders run, we get a Cloud and Iceman reunion, because I'd really like to see how they feel about each other in the now.
Would love to see
they were both Defenders back in the day. Also, Angel, bring Angel back.
I mean, Bobby did have that weird crush on like only girl version of Cloud, but like maybe.
Yeah, I think Bobby was trying to work something out then.
Yeah.
Jake, if there are only 4 key colors, what is the 5th?
Invisible.
Invisible. Ooh. All right, Nico.
Ultraviolet.
I can't wait to see how much further this is going to go. One of the things I saw in the last page was we saw Ewing literally say this was 200 pages and we're very proud of it. And it felt very like the end, but it feels like this can only be the end of a first chapter. And it would be interesting to see a new wave of Mystic re-influence Marvel. It would just be really nice to see this set a tone for a cleaner path for Magic in the future.
Hell yeah. Wancho.
You know how writers like Morrison and Hickman have this like grand unified theory of their own story?
Mm-hmm.
And this makes me want to go back to read basically everything else done for Marvel, because you can see tiny little things in all of his comics that tie up here. Like, for example, the speech when Raven said to go look back to the one above all, the one above all says that his only weapon is love, whereas the one below all is hate. Like in Mortal Hulk, I think 25 maybe. I should go back and check. So basically, that's what I want to see. Because once you go back and look all these building blocks, we can maybe see a path forward. But as Nico said, this kind of feels final with Javier Rodriguez. Like, I don't think the story is going to go forward like with the same creative team, if at all. But yeah, this comic was great. It's made me look into so many things that I'd probably never be interested before I read Ultimates and Defenders and all this. And I'm so excited and happy that I got to talk about this comic with you guys.
We are so happy to have had you. This has been a wonderful team from start to finish. It has been a long, long journey with us all. I can't wait to pick this all up whenever, if it's not with Javier Rodriguez, whatever the next Al Ewing book is. Maybe not in Wasp, but we'll see. Thank you all for having come on this amazing, mystical, magical journey towards liberation with me and with all of us. It has been a blast, and I'm so sad to see this comic end.
Same.
Nico, you are
On mute.
It's back. It's time. It's strangeness, and that means it's Nathan.
Hey, everybody. All right. So we have gathered together to celebrate Strange 6 through 8, right? So, all right. So in Strange number 6, right, we get a really good look into Wong, a really good.
Oh my God, Wongers!
Wongers! He teams up with Black Widow. He go visits Jean Grey in the treehouse. And we find out a little bit more about Wand and their role with Blasphemy Cartel. And we meet director Pandora Peters. All right, so what's everybody's thoughts on all of this going on in Strange number 6?
Okay, Pandora Peters. What a deep cut. What a deep fucking cut. Okay? The Thunderbolts annual that she is from, that is her only other appearance in the Marvel Universe.
Wow.
It's a deep fucking cut, you guys.
Trust
I was
Jed McKay. Trust Jed McKay. Yeah.
I was like, she's familiar. Why do I know her? Why do I know her? Why do I know this? Why do I know her? Google. TK? This woman has been in one comic before.
Yeah.
I do this every single time we talk about a Jed MacKay comic because he just like pulls out characters from like a Venom comic in 1995 and is like, here's this person's one appearance. They will be really important to my run going forward.
Right, and then it's like a background character that like was there for like 2 panels.
You guys all remember Zodiac from Dark Reign Zodiac, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess the big question is like in comparison to, you know, Ewing, who's pulling all these references from like important cosmological Marvel material. How do we feel about like Jed MacKay pulling one random person that is now super fundamental to how magic functions in the Marvel universe?
I love
Yeah.
this.
He's a badass.
People go back and read comics they've never read before, at least for me and for a lot of people, because they're often pulls from like comics that like maybe you read if you were picking them up at the time, but like they've disappeared with time, you know.
Which was funny.
Well, and that's what I kind of loved about like the number of like characters where Jed MacKay is like, I have 2 pages left. Obscure reference, give me a minute. And like just kind of goes into his vault and comes back and he's like, Thunderstrike, I'll be back. All right. Zodiac, I'll be back.
Is not an obscure reference, but maybe that's
Well,
because
he was in a video.
Hold on, we did an enormous amount of Thunderstrike research for the MC2 project. We've talked about Thunderstrike for over 9 hours on this show, and he has had like less than 10 appearances in the last 15 years.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
So-
maybe I'm just old now.
Right? So like he really has like faded into some amount of obscurity at this point.
Thor, kind of.
And he's Kevin. We love Kevin.
It's pretty exciting to see Kevin now has grown up to the point where he has
Kevin!
his own apartment and makes mac and cheese. Last time we saw him, he was a shitty high schooler. No, there in between that there was Asgardians of the Galaxy, where who knows how
Asgardians
old
of the
he was.
Galaxy, so good.
Great book,
great
but
book.
like Kevin, like in kind of a liminal state in terms of like his development. But you know, just so great to see him as a teen. So like I do appreciate the references. I guess it's just like I'm so used to X-Men references where I have definitely read every single obscure thing. I'm like, oh, John Traveler. I like every single appearance. I've read them. So great to see him again. But these references, I did have like Nico had to tell me, and I had to go pull up that Thunderbolts. It was not special to me in any way. So I'm like not excited about Pandora Peters as a pull, but these issues now I'm kind of into the character that Jed MacKay has written. So you know, I appreciate it at a level for sure.
Yeah, I really liked this issue. Number 6, the big spell. I like the references to the big sleep. I like the neo-noir setting. I like the change of having Wong be the person. And also, I really like the guest artist. I love having Lee Garbett on the series.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
The covers have all been exquisite. I loved this issue just for that. Even if Black Widow was completely unhelpful, aside from lecturing about state actors and how important they are to your non-governmental organizations. Wow.
No, Black Widow was helpful. She had the information that Wong needed. At least it gave him like direction. She was like, I know it's not from this organization. I know it's not from that organization. Yeah. You're probably going to be one of. She was helpful. She had info. That's what she does.
She's something that never appears in comics. She was a white redhead.
Yeah. she narrowed it down. She said, these are all the things it's not, about 3 things that it's not. So it could be any other thing in this universe.
Well, no,
Speaking of white redhead, she appear in this issue.
Like, I mean, they're dealing with the occult, and she's not necessarily a heavy occult person per se.
Yeah.
But like, she's like, I know you're not looking for this organization. All these ones that you know of that are easy to find, it's not that. It's something that is like even deeper. So you got to go to an even more knowledgeable. You know,
it's Yelena Bologna.
Yeah. It's like it's deeper than my pay grade.
But I also love that she shows up to introduce a degree of like government bureaucracy to magic.
Oh yeah,
like, well, I mean, that's an important part of all this. Like, guess what?
That's the part that I found hilarious is that she just rambles on it for a while. She's like, "Well,
about oversight
your
in magic
doesn't have a government behind it, so like obviously they're gonna have to watch out, otherwise there's war." I'm like, I don't know what happens when 2 governments fight, and then there's war. But you know, ridiculous. It's fine. It does make a bureaucracy to this like underground magic world, which obviously is super important as we see in the next 2 issues. I like that builds it up, and I really like the direction the series is finally turning into. Like I like the wand thing. Can we say it now?
I honestly loved Wong. I loved the story actually centering around Wong because it actually feels way more plausible. I'm not having to suspend as much disbelief that Wong would be driven to really look into who took Stephen Strange, a person who was so central in his life, a person who treated him like a friend and not like just a manservant, which is something so many story writers seem to get wrong. I'm looking at y'all. You know who you are. Quit writing him as the manservant from 1970s, please. Thank you.
It really rocks seeing Stephen Strange, like from the Steve Ditko era in this, be like, you are my equal and my peer. You are my friend. You are not somebody who works for me. That's actually pretty powerful. Just retconning. I mean, obviously there was some degree of equality at the time, but like Steve Ditko, I don't know that he ever wrote that panel specifically, but it is a reminder that that is who they are and that is who they've always been, whether or not comics got written in the meantime that subordinated him to Stephen Strange. You know, that's a nice.
It's so funny that the MCU has given us a Wong that I think we maybe a little bit more are rooting for than Stephen Strange,
for sure,
and who's a little bit more broadly of a leading man.
Hot.
Yes, 100%.
The hottest
actor may not be commanding the same like level of pay that,
which is absolute shame.
I think it's going to start changing really quickly because I mean, like, just how we responded to him in She-Hulk, I think is kind of a big game changer. But it's funny that, like, looking at this issue and like this comic overall, where we're still like, we can't have Wong the book. Like, Wong is in Stephen Strange's book, and yet we now have seen him on screen have these adventures with She-Hulk that were like, give us a Wong show where he's just being this dude. And I'm ready now for that book too. But this issue was like a really nice, let's dip our toes in the water. And yes, in fact, it turns out readers not only like will read a Wong issue to get to the rest of the story, but they'll respond. We all are responding to it really well.
Better than it's better than the 4 issues surrounding it. And
I gotta say, I in the age of the MC unification of the comic universe, especially like when we get into Midnight Suns, there's some things that like feel weird to me when we get into that later. But you know, it's refreshing to see a comic book take a stand and be like, no, this Wong is different in the comics than he is in the movie. So to see it reiterated, like, even though like I kind of like movie Wong better, like it was nice to see somebody say, no, I'm not going to make everything just like the movies that, you know, there are differences. Please read the books. That's what it seemed like Jed MacKay was doing with that.
And I was just kind of disappointed that I came back in just in time for it to not be about Clea. Like, I'm on 1, and then I'm not on 2 through 5, and then I show up for 6 through 8, and I'm like, I'm gonna read the Clea. Oh, hi, Steven.
But it's funny because this book both makes the case for why Clea is so awesome and deserves everything in this world, except for a book called Strange. It just doesn't work. I think she really deserves, you know, whatever the book is called, you know, a Dark Dimension book, a Sorceress Supreme of the Dark Dimension, written by a woman, and with this level of energy for like, I am Warlord born. I do not fuck around. I'm not nice in the same way that a lot of these people are, but I do good shit. That is a great book. It's just every single time you open up an issue that says Strange and this is what you see, it's off. And we are starting to get on track, but by getting on track, it now feels off in the way of like, but this is Clea's book, and now we're like bringing the dude back for it to be his book.
I mean, well, we always had to find a way to segue back to Stephen Strange.
Yeah, we know where we're going there.
Well, I think this book has actually become about how Clea is uniquely unsuited to be the Sorcerer Supreme. I think that's maybe the intention here, and I really like that. It's something that's helping me enjoy the book a lot more. Is that I love Clea in this. Everybody loves Clea in this, but she's like a really bad choice for Sorcerer Supreme. She does things like completely impulsively with no regard for the price of magic, even though she knows that there is going to be one. She is desperate to get her husband back at all costs. She's kind of stolen the title of Sorcerer Supreme in a way that is not actually like the way it's supposed to be passed, and other people are like having problems with this. I like
it's a little mayoral.
Yeah.
I like
It's
the
a little
idea that
like
she
my
is-
husband died, so now I'm the mayor.
But
Like,
she's
so-
not witty. That's the problem. Like when we were
She's just
introduced
mean.
to Clea,
He is just mean.
yeah, exactly. When we were introduced to Clea in all of the backstory, all of the previous issues, like I'm talking like deep history to modern age. When we were introduced to Clea, she was always so quick-witted, sharp. She seduced Stephen Strange with how just amazing she was, across the board, but especially in her wit and how she could, she just walked circles around him. It was great. We don't get that in this book. And that's why, I mean, Wong, I love him. He is a character in and of himself. But literally in one issue, he made it the Wong show. And it was fantastic and it felt on beat because this is Wong so perfectly done. We're not getting the Clea that has been presented to us over and over again. She's not witty. She's impulsive. She seems like a teenage girl / early 20-something. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe that bitch stole my boyfriend. I'm getting him back. I'm like,
and now she gets to
No,
fuck Grandpa.
Here's the thing.
Right?
Here's the thing about this that's so unhinged to me, right? Before Death of Doctor Strange, when was the last time Clea and Stephen Strange even saw each other?
Well,
Right?
it's been quite a while actually. I do remember, but the thing is, like, after the Kate's run, after Jason Aaron and Kate's run, where she showed up sporadically to be like, "I'm mad at you because like you made me forget me," etc. There's stuff like there's a whole forgetting spell that happens. And there's Mark Waid's run, and I think that's where that picks up again. And then he's dating other people throughout the galaxy and the cosmos, and kind of like they're ex married by the time the Death of Doctor Strange happens. They're exes who have not seen each other in the Marvel universe probably a few months, but in our universe maybe a few years.
Yeah.
She has
How
not
that works.
She has not been a major character in Doctor Strange comics since 2015.
Yeah, I mean, like even the Blasphemy Cartel was like, what? Like we had files on magic, we had files on voodoo, we had files on Wiccan, we had files on everybody, but we did not have files on Clea because why would Clea become the Sorcerer Supreme?
And I think that the main thing I took from the end of this is like, I would love a Strange Family book.
Yeah.
You can give me Strange Academy and Strange Family, and it's about Steven and Clea and about their functionally adult friend Wong, who takes care of them in all ways.
Literally adult, but
Literally.
he does not function
He's
as
the
an
only
adult.
adult.
And I would read that, but like I feel sometimes like maybe Clea kind of got the short end of the stick, maybe Wong kind of got the short end of the stick, and Steven's death ultimately kind of feels like it. Sometimes you hear about like writers be like, "Oh, I came to Marvel with this idea," and they were like, "Oh, that's so good, we're going to turn it into a miniseries, and we're going to make it an event, and it's going to be a crossover, and we're going to do the thing," and like.
Wait,
Terrific.
Trial of Magneto? What?
Exactly. Like you hear about how the editors went, bonkers batshit over your idea. And so like I'm super happy for it. But like I feel like Death of Doctor Strange should have been an arc of this book, not a major massive event.
Mhm.
And his death feels like a footnote that was a fake out to make us think Clea was going to be important for a second.
Yeah, I mean, like 30 years ago, Death of Doctor Strange would have been the preceding arc to Clea's Strange, and then eventually it would have become Doctor Strange again, but it all would have been the same title, Doctor Strange. It is interesting that they chop it up into different series, although they are sort of self-contained in their own way. So I get like the marketing push for that. But yeah, I mean, like if you were reading like, I don't know, one of those long runs on a comic book, I can't think of anybody who's written a comic book for like 17 or 10 years or whatever. But if you're reading something like that, it would just segue from one arc to the next, and it'd be part of a longer run.
Aaron's Avengers. In
I was going
Aaron's
to say
Avengers,
Claremont, but yeah.
it would be in Aaron's,
Or the-
Aaron's
would
Avengers.
be-
That's perfect because it's just short arcs that are basically their own miniseries and that don't
and
really
even if
interlock.
there were a couple of tie-ins to the issues in Aaron's Avengers, you would still have it. I think, last segment I said like, are we leading up to Ewing's big summer crossover where he gets to put all of these ideas into play and do something big? I have the exact same question about Jed MacKay, because the problems with death are everywhere now in books that Jed MacKay is not touching at all. the X-Men present a huge problem with the idea of death. Thanos always exists to be horny for death. Like, death is a thing that we have to, and even some of Ewing's concepts would play into this as well.
But
yeah,
Al Ewing and Aaron did that in like a 2-3 issue arc in Jane Foster.
Valkyrie.
Yeah.
I think it's just something that's happening across the board, you know, and it's not like necessarily Jed McKay's thing, but like I do think it's been across the board. Death is a question ever since Jonathan Hickman was like, "What if it wasn't a problem?"
Right, and so eventually we may need to have a like coming to terms very broadly with that. And
don't you think that's what X was?
No, because we still are not at like literally, because X-Men can still resurrect, mutants can still resurrect. Like we haven't even like gotten to the resolution of Strange.
Everybody's just talking about the problem now.
I don't think the X-Men have to stop resurrecting, if only because the Eternals were always resurrecting. Like they have stopped now, and that's
think so either. But I think death conceptually is going to remain having a problem with it.
Yes.
That is potential crossover fodder. And again, I just point to like, if death shows up and is like, hey, Thanos, I'm sick of everybody not dying and you're super horny for me. Do something about it. That is a crossover event. That's a summer crossover event right there.
Yep, Death would never cheat on Deadpool like that.
Oh, no. Do we finally see Deadpool? I mean, Death and Thanos just fuck, and that's the event for the summer.
Deadpool, I want a divorce.
Nathan, you've become a ray of light.
I love that Nathan is literally contacting us from like the dark dimension right now.
You're a hologram in the red room.
Just chilling out. He's the evolution of the arm. This is everything. Yes.
I am that weird tree thing, okay? But yeah, so hold on, I know what it is. There you go. All right.
Oh, he's back.
Oh, thank God.
Hologram. I was like, wait, how do I do that? But anyway.
Oh, you're a doctor on Star Trek?
Yes, but I would be a hologram of Dr. Crusher somehow, because that's the only way that would work.
And you Dr. Crush it.
So like, I mean, this book, like 6, 7, and 8 definitely picks up the pace. I wasn't as much of a fan of the first arc. 6 I thought was a fantastic issue because it focused on Wong. I thought getting the reveal of Strange as Harvest Man, while predictable, I thought it had some good good tones in it. Jed's writing of Clea, sort of, if I didn't know that he was such a good writer of women from Black Cat already, like it would have me kind of worried, because she's falling into some really bad tropey kind of behavior, some very like, oh, my husband's dead, so I'm going crazy, I'm gonna go dark Clea kind of tropes. But like, you know, as long as Black Cat's still around, I know Jed McKay is not a writer who just writes women like that in general. It's just it's kind of like, oh, okay, dude, be careful.
It's just Clea. I think he's looking at Clea as like a Dormammu creature, you know, a Faultine, and is like, she's fiery. It's not really a Clea we've ever seen before, and I think it's a bold new direction. But yeah, it does risk sometimes seeming a little close to the idea of like a woman who's just like crazy for her love and will do anything to get her. But I think that's romantic. Like the 7th issue is, I think, a really romantic issue. But what keeps me from loving number 7 so much is that I think it's so undercut by how the art just like doesn't look good to me. Like I think the colors are really dull and drab and of the grave, and you know that makes sense for Steven, but like for a really romantic issue, it doesn't really. The art to me is at cross purposes with the really beautiful way she sells like how deeply she needs Steven back and how she'll do anything for him. She doesn't need anything, but she needs you, and she will do anything to get you back. She's so possessive, and it's like, it's honestly beautiful, and it's scary, and it's a little sexy, and I don't know, just the art just does not sell to me that that's the emotion that is primarily coming across on the page. All I feel is the chill of death of Steven over it all, which may be intentional, but it doesn't work for me.
Well, from one Strange book to another, I want to give Raven a chance to give her closing thoughts, and then I think we're bouncing over to Strange Academy.
again, it's the unhinged teenage girl who will do anything because she's so in love that is like it's painful to me to watch.
Yeah,
because it doesn't translate well for a female character, but it also just doesn't translate well for Clea. And then they talked about, oh well, we can't even touch, and I'm like, why didn't you add some of her aura into it? Like give me some tension between their two energies. Something, but there was nothing. And
give us
like,
magnetic
show me.
Yeah.
You know what? Show me Wong. Show me Clea possessing Wong so they can kiss and touch and make love.
She's the Sorcerer Supreme. Like she would know that death and life are polar opposites. Like why can't I touch you? Bitch, you know you're the fucking Sorcerer Supreme of 2 dimensions.
Hey, animate a toaster in a blender and make them fuck. Who cares?
It was funny when he was like, we're positive and negative, we can't touch. I was like, oh, well, if it's magnets, those attract. But, I think positive and negative.
How do magnets work? I don't know.
Don't forget crypto
Did you say how do magnets fuck, Raven? I love that.
I mean, it's this close to being a Juggalo song. This sort of shit. Yeah, that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that.
Well, until we get to see that, I think we said Insane Clown Posse fucking a blender. Until we get to that, I think it's Nathan. You got a final thought, or we got commercials?
I would just say I think this is a book that could be good. I think the art lowers it, whereas like what we were talking about before with Defenders Beyond, the art elevates the story. I think there's a lot of stuff that still needs to fall in place. It's not my worst spending of money, but it's not something that I'm like, oh my god, I've got to read this right away when it comes out.
Well,
wait for the trade.
Wait for the trade, and check out this commercial. Yeah, all right, we're back, and this is more strange. It's madness and magic, and we've added somebody.
Hello,
Jonah.
It's Jonah.
I have been strange portaled through the realms. I am back on Araco, coming from you live. The atmosphere is decent.
Coming from you. Oh dear.
So now that we're diving, please.
No, I gotta say, no, you're in charge. I was gonna just be like, you're in charge, but you're in charge already. Bye.
I'm jumping right into charge. Now that we are diving back into the halls of Strange Academy, we're picking up after a very dark end to our first semester. I want to start with a really important question. How do we all feel about Wanda's button-down crop top with a sash tied around baggy pants look as a school teacher?
It works.
It works.
It actually works.
It does. That inspired me to grab this cup because I was like, she's amazing. And yes, like, what is she doing? I don't know, but I love all of it.
She's like the casual cool teacher who's got a past that everyone kind of knows about. And that's why we respect her, but we also totally gossip about her. But like, we love her look.
Well, and one of the things about this that really has me is like, okay, we're going with like that Scotty Young is a little bit older And so he's writing from a place of a little bit olderness, which isn't bad. You could be a little bit older and, you know, still understand kids. We've seen it a lot on this book and we've on this you know, show, and we've talked about it a number of times, where the nature of, you know, your age doesn't decide how in touch you are with kids or anything like that. But he is writing from an idea of like, what if the people from 90210 grew up and just started teaching at the school and it was no big deal? And so
no 90210 too.
Everybody's a little bit like dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, bad choice.
I would like to know who certified them as teachers. Like, is this something that Dr. Strange did before? Like, what is their pedagogical method? Like, who are their teaching inspirations? Like, show me a rubric for
like,
one of these classes.
It seems like when like somebody had the bright idea, let's have Wolverine and a 20-year-old become the headmasters of the academy, of the new like X-Men Academy. Like, okay, cool. Like, and why is Kate Pryde as a 20-year-old the most like experienced person?
Well, because in one alternate reality she was headmistress of education or something. So
you're telling me Wanda is Donna Martin? She's also Wanda. I feel is like that theater teacher when everybody had to take a theater class.
Yep.
Who like walks in 10 minutes late, and she walks in. She's like, "So why aren't you practicing your spells? Why aren't you practicing?"
Mutates. Wanda Maximoff mutates. Wanda Maximoff mutates.
Oh my gosh!
She's
And
a mutant.
I do love someone who insists on using a sash as a belt. They're like,
Right.
what a creative use for this garment.
What a
Heart
story.
What a pirate.
Love it.
And that she still wears her facial buttressing crown on casual
How will they know
day.
it's Wanda without
It's
her
the-
weapon?
That's true. She's otherwise she is some lady with brown hair, pink shirt, and red pants.
Guys, not Jean is here and everything bad keeps happening right behind her.
It's
Guys,
her,
my
it's her
stapler
crown
is
of
stuck.
office. It's her Polaris crown, but it's red.
Can you imagine being Polaris and Wanda and growing up and being like, we have so much in common. Look at our headpieces. I wonder if we have the same parents. Wouldn't that be crazy? And Wanda's
Turns
like,
out,
well, meanwhile, Wanda's like,
Enchantress just kind of
"No,
slides
my
into
dad."
frame, slides right back out.
How about I can not see this now? Like, the new teacher hooked up with a robot and her brother.
And a man in an iron mask.
well, I mean,
That
if
comes
if
in the head
Scarlet
suit.
Witch, if the Scarlet Witch, who is a Nexus being, is like all Scarlet Witches, then yeah, she is also Ultimate Scarlet Witch, who definitely hooked up with her brother and a robot.
What
But I thought-
in the Star
I-
Wars?
What in the Claremont?
This is Marvel. This is Marvel Nexus.
Hey,
This is
you know
true.
why is Wanda there but not Amanda Sefton? Come on, like we just have to.
Weird,
that's
man.
real.
Because Amanda has some freaking taste and is like, oh hell no, I'm not walking into that
I'm
shit
not going to
show.
that school.
We don't
I
know
mean,
where
she
Amanda
is-
Sefton is right now. She's been off screen for so long.
She is.
We've been at this for 5 minutes and we haven't brought up any of the students.
Oh my god,
Listen.
Emily, what the fuck?
Okay, what is going on with her?
Emily,
Well,
Oh.
so, you know, but Nico, to your point, when this first issue picked up, very much I was like, oh, we're really going to be dealing with this choice to go to the dark dimension. And then in the second issue, we switch over to entirely different storylines that were all very interesting. But this really feels like the last 4 issues of first semester that are just somehow now their own book.
No,
this
it,
is
yeah,
all going to
you're
get
right.
put
It should have
together
been
in one
tied in.
graphic.
It's an odd thing. Like, I'm really happy we're tying up these stories, and I think we're doing a great job of it. The packaging to me is very odd. Calling it finals and then not really having a structure that speaks to that in any way. It's just kind of like, here are the plot threads that we left off with, and like we literally can't visit all of them in a single issue, so we're going to just kind of play around with it.
And again, and reading this with Midnight Suns too, I'm like, wait, which story takes place first?
Yep.
Right?
I'm like, oh, these obviously don't take place at the same time. And then I'm like, Midnight Sun has to take place later because Ileana's got her new costume. So then, like, okay, what's going on?
Yeah,
It just feels. Oh, please.
I was gonna say it feels like they're in two separate universes, even though the titles are running at the same time, and that creates a little bit of problem for me because why would you target like a sophomore, freshman? You know, like that and no.
Yeah.
I'll get into that part later, but yeah, all I gotta say is what in the white woman is that?
And it feels like there's sorry. Well, it feels like there's two speeds.
Yeah.
There's the speed of Krakoa, which is like the speed of the monthly book, which is something's always happening and it's propelling motion forward. And that's what I feel like Immortal X-Men is most of the time.
Yep.
And then there's the omnibus book or the hardcover book, which is a creature that exists to sell things in the long term. But then you wind up where the books that exist, like, oh, well, we know it's going to finish. We know it's going to come out. We know it's going to end up filling out our page count. Those books don't really fit in with the books that are coming out around them. This just reads like this was supposed to all already be out, and they're calling it a mini series as a way to kind of buy themselves a little space.
What does that do for us from a storytelling perspective, though? I mean, it does kind of jar the timeline up and make us wonder where these events land, what these characters should be doing elsewhere right now. Yeah, it does just make you wonder why this wasn't just in the original run for this book. It's
because I think the break made us lose steam as readers. You know, I'm a lot less interested.
Yeah.
It's also like now I feel like because there is what feels like less time, Emily is moving at a speed that is different than the two types of books that now it's just very clear that she's in some way corrupted. I imagine it's going to be by Dormammu daddy, who's going to just be trying to fuck around with Doyle, which is fine. That's a totally plausible story for a book with Strange in the title. We can get there. We can do that. It's just we went from Raven has always pointed out very problematic attitude, but I think a reasonable view of what it is like to be taught by people that are maybe coming from a bit of a 90210 life. Entrusting your safety and education to those people is not the best. She's also going about it in a weird way. That was all kind of cool. And we had great conversations about that in Strange Academy rooms. But now we have just jumped right to something is clearly demonically wrong. And we just need to get that sewn up however it's going to happen so that we can go have second semester. And with such a huge gap between first semester and this, I'm now like, I'm not enthused so much as I am ready to be done.
She went from Katniss to Karen so fast. Like my head nearly snapped. I was like, what are you the fuck?
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't think Karens were this powerful outside of a Dunkin' Donut.
I mean, she did ask for the manager, basically.
Also, the Dark Dimension is basically one giant Dunkin' Donuts.
At the rest stop, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She does have a coupon that expired 2 years ago now, and she is really mad that she can't use it. And that's what the whole story is about.
And oh my god, and then Desi goes off the rails too. Like,
that was
what
sad.
the shit?
Something's going on there.
Yeah, somebody better explain that because I'm not having that. Mm-mm.
You know, we're seeing some crazy shit with Sim lately, and I think one of the big complaints about Strange Academy was that it was odd that Sim is an abuser of a level that we kind of can't ever forgive, and he's showing up to Parents'
But he's
Day.
such a cute dad.
Yeah, like that's weird. That's tough for a reader, you know. And I think seeing Desi in the mode that we're seeing her in this is kind of similar to Emily insofar as like it is clear that something is wrong that is not a character flaw. It is a like magical systems flaw. And kind of turning these concerns that we've had about these characters into like functional problems is the only way we can reel it back and put them back in a book and be like, here they are as friends again. It makes some sense. it's sort of like some of it feels like a bit of a cop out for me.
This feels like, you know how like some new writers just like throw everything into a book because they're like, this might be my only chance to get published.
It's my first arc. What if it gets canceled? Yeah.
Right. And like this isn't his first arc, but this feels like he's like, I gotta throw everything in. What if it gets canceled? I gotta set everything in this paper. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, it like I love Scotty Young. Like
it was amazing.
Strange Academy. Oh my god. But yeah, this feels like they were trying to literally take all the storylines that might have like, little threads hanging out, and okay, we gotta stuff those back in and get all that tied together. And it's like, my dude, we are looking at the backside of a tapestry right now, and it's not pretty. Like, calm down, just slow it up. Trust me, you've got more issues. If we have to show up on Marvel editors' doorsteps in order to get your book published, that is what will happen. Please don't rush it. Don't rush it. You have too much great story to do and so much lovely nuance to put into it. And that's what we love about these books. But yeah, this is just everything's in, and it jumps from one very, very meaty story arc to another very deeply nuanced story arc, and I will never fucking forgive Voodoo for what he did to Calvin, because he put Calvin in that situation. I am so flaming pissed about that on so many levels. Like, but they are so different.
But in the second issue, we do return to kind of a form that we're used to for Strange Academy, and we get a great little, like, everybody's at the school doing school things, and we get some of our friends back, and so everybody's participating in the cleanup and the cookout, and it's what we remember. And we also get a thing that we got in Strange Academy, which is the kids don't ever give up on each other. They will save each other when they know they can. And I was wondering how everybody felt about that return to form, whether it's just this one issue, and to see everybody, with the exception of the few that are in the Dark Dimension, doing things the way we used to see them done.
I was so quick. I was constantly, when I started reading the first issue, I went back and read the last issue, the last few pages. Like, what did I miss? Like, it's like such a tonal shift between the two issues that it was very, very jarring. I mean, I liked the second issue better because it focused on what we loved about Strange Academy, but it was just such a tonal shift from the first one that it was really jarring and hard to get back into for me.
Hang on, I want to get Jonah's opinion because I haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah.
Oh, something I wanted to say is this is very reminiscent of Riot at Xavier's way back in the Morrison run, but that I think had much clearer stakes, where if something goes wrong, there were a lot of humans there as well as reporters that can do a lot of damage to not only the people that were there, but also the reputation of the school that was under Jean's care. But here, it doesn't seem like their stakes are matching what they're trying to tell us, because it's not like the teachers are trying to go after the students. The students left. They know where they are. They're not going after them. They said, if you want to leave, you leave. You can't really force students to stay in the school. And it feels like this coup, this we're going to rebel, I don't like the way you're treating us, doesn't... Either the kids aren't being heard and that they're right, that these teachers don't care, or the teachers are like, this just feels like regular rebellion and it is what it is. We're not chasing after you. So I am getting a little bit of a tonal dissonance that we're going to pretend everything is fine and go back to classes like normal, but we have these kids who are clearly struggling, but we're not going to do anything about it.
Jake, you had a thought?
I really like it kind of snuck up on me, but I really like the kind of old school New Mutants vibe that this book has been giving, insofar as, like, you can't really trust the instructors. They're, they have some expertise, but they're all dealing with their own traumas and passing them down to, a la, like, Magneto. They really do have to rely on each other for emotional support, for material support, and the energy of, like, their day-to-day, their movement from, like, like literally from like issue to issue, not in the comic sense, but in the like life sense, is so frenetic, and the stakes are all over the place. In some ways, the more I think about it, the more this really does feel like it's a really great teenage experience book, because it does feel like these stakes are high, but when you pull the lens back, you're like, oh, but are they, or is this just like amped up by teenage hormones? I really kind of like that that frame, that we're starting to see that like so much of this is teen angst, just being put through the powers, you know, like the powers are just such an expression of that, and a facilitator of that. I guess, yeah. So I guess I'm loving this a little bit more. I'm loving it more. And it sucks that it took a while for these books to come out, because I think this is where the storytelling, there are a lot of threads, and they are beginning to weave together, at least the emotional threads for me. I'm beginning to feel some, like, let's say crystallization, because I'm not good at weaving things. I feel like these stories are beginning to crystallize. And I'm just kind of excited to see what happens. I love Doyle. That really snuck up on me as a character that I've learned to love. So anyway, the book is really, it makes me feel like I'm reading an old school New Mutants book with updated art. I think Scotty Young is a great storyteller and is doing a really cool job.
And on that note, I do want to start calling for last thoughts. Sorry, Raven. I want to start calling for last thoughts, but I'll go to you first, because you were getting into it.
I think Jake's absolutely right. I love Doyle so freaking much.
Yeah.
Like, they have made him very much not his father without having to like really, he's not his father. It's like, no, he just proves, look, I'm not my dad. I'm worried about being my dad. I don't want to be my dad. I'm going to have to prove it through my actions. Mm-hmm. And like the fact that like Zoe walks in, she's like, oh, I fucked up. He's like, I'm so glad you're back. I'm like, I love it. I really do. Like, take your time, tell the story, because I want to have all the emotions, because I love these kids so fucking much. Even Emily.
And I got to throw out, he is Clea's cousin, and I feel like maybe we got to get into that at some point. But Nico, let's hear you for last thoughts.
I just want to see it turn out okay. That first issue feels like a totally different book. The art even feels kind of harsh. And it's one of those things where it just goes from, I'm having kind of a bad... It's like Karima Shapendar and Moira. One day, they just woke up, had a bad day. They're going to fucking kill everybody. Everybody's going to fucking die. And I just want to be like, Emily, girl, stop.
Nathan, let's hear from you.
All right, cool. Thank you. All right, cool. Sweet. Yeah, no, I would just say, yeah, I agree absolutely with what Nico said. It's very, like, Emily was so like on a slow path until bam, that issue, and then she just went like, she's like, I'm 1,000 years old. She's like Moira McTaggart, like, I'm several thousand years old, but now I just suddenly fucking hate all the mutants, and I 2 years ago was trying to create this. Like, what? Yeah, it's very wonky. But I do like the save in the second issue. Returned it back to the form I wanted it to. I know the first issue probably just had to set it up to do what Scotty Young wanted a whole arc to do, but he probably had to do it in an issue. And I just can't wait to see what comes from it.
Jonah.
I think Doyle would do great in Descendants. I'm not my dad. Let me do this 8 count and do this song. That's what Doyle. That's how I imagine Doyle's gonna do great in that universe.
Doyle for the first ever Marvel DCOM. I'm with you.
Yep.
But I thought the second issue, I think the first issue is it's our theoretical Chekhov's gun that we're gonna just put in the drawer, and we're gonna say we're gonna fire this later, but there's some other things we're gonna take care of first, and that's fine. And I think when all the other issues come out, in retrospect, it might read a little bit better when we have everything going on. But when you look at it as a standalone, it is a little bit, in my opinion, weaker than the second issue, which feels like, okay, I think this is what everybody kind of fell in love with, was we're following these kids who are mystical and magical, and we're kind of going through their day, and we're kind of seeing how they're dealing with these challenges. Like you said, Jake, it kind of is a New Mutants book, and it's why I think it is so well received, at least especially by our team. But I love angst, but I just want to tell Emily everything's going to be okay. Put on some eyeliner. Listen to some My Chemical Romance.
White girl it down.
And like, you can girl boss, you can gaslight, and
Emo girl.
But like, let's think of a plan, and maybe banging all these pots and pans isn't the way to get what you want. But you can't tell a child that because they don't know that yet.
Yeah, I think, I'm just really hoping that this is a beginning for these stories of Strange Academy and not an end. I love a school book. I've really been missing an on Krakoa. I say that every time we talk about Strange Academy. I honestly wouldn't hate another Avengers Academy. There are so many kids out there. I want to see them. I know, Raven. I know.
So many faces just fell.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Sound of
I like school books
falling.
I think it's such a good mode for Marvel. I would be happy to see more of it.
Secret same.
In the meantime, I just want to see these kids back in school together on a good note, and maybe we'll see them in stuff like Midnight Suns, which we're about to talk about. So thank you guys so much for joining us to talk about Strange Academy, and I can't wait to talk to you more.
Commercial! All right, ladies and gentlemen, my third outfit, and I'm just trying to find the right color scheme for the backdrop. I just want my Krakoan Quiet Council to look good. Just got to find the right color match, right? So
I knew we were supposed to have costume changes.
Well, I got to keep it fresh.
They are amazing. They are fun.
Now, speaking of keeping it fresh, costume changes and a magic. We're here to talk about Midnight Suns 1 through 3, and I have I have what I feel like is going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but I legitimately mean it really positively and really warmly. But for me, the key thing about this series is it feels like an unnecessary miniseries.
It does.
It feels silly and kind of pointless. And for that reason, I love it. For that reason, it is worth its money. It does exactly what it sets out to do. If you tell me I'm paying $4 for dumb fun, cool. If you tell me I'm paying $4 for brilliance and I get dumb fun, fuck you. This could be dumb fun brilliant. And I would love to get your guys' vibe. I know the four of us talked about the first few issues, and now we're sitting here again looking at 1 through 3, a little bit further in. How are you guys feeling about the nature of Midnight Suns sitting 3 issues in?
It really feels like it has been obviously developed to obviously promote the game, which most of those characters are going to appear in. And surprisingly enough, it feels like it is designed to MC unify Agatha Harkness. Okay, I didn't see that one coming, but I need it. And like, I'm like, okay, cool. If you're going to tell me Agatha Harkness is going to go around looking like Catherine Hahn all the time, give it to me.
Yeah, that was. I started asking about that, like kind of right around the time I joined the show, I think, because you knew it was going to happen. I can see why Wong in the books is not Wong from the MCU, but at this point, I don't think you can super sell me on it's important that we have comics Agatha Harkness when Catherine Hahn is MCU Agatha Harkness. Like, we always knew we were getting to this place. My question is, can comics Agatha Harkness crack wise in the ways that Catherine Hahn can? I believe it under the right writer. That might not be this book, but it could be the next one.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Agatha to make me sing Agatha all along in the books. So.
Oh, we're getting like some little drop from that or something. Yeah. There's just no way. But I have asked the question 2 different times. Like, are the writers that we're discussing today leading into or like laying groundwork for big stories for themselves, whether that's, they've been told to, or they just want to leave themselves something to work with should they keep getting work from Marvel. I do not feel that way about this book. I feel like this book is just trying to do this book and have fun. And I don't know that we are entering the years in which there will always be a Midnight Suns team and they will be the Avengers of Magic. I think we might just kind of be fucking around with some funny characters that I'm obsessed with. Most especially, of course, Kushala.
The Avengers of Magic, in parentheses, and Wolverine.
Not even the good Wolverine.
No, not even Laura. Nope, it's just Logan. It was Logan all along. I'm waiting for the beautiful line from Agatha in the comics. I don't care about you enough to lie to you. I'm awaiting that now that we're seeing here. What I think kind of works so well about this title is that I think it's doing a pretty good job of promoting the game without and pretending that the stakes are really high. We have this world-ending threat, and we also have this character of Zoe, this young girl who's at the epicenter of it, and kind of the linchpin to this entire story. But this story is so dumb, and is so silly that we're like, oh, this is a joke. I mean, it's all going to be a big old prank. The camera's going to come rolling out. We go like, there's a camera there, there's a camera there, there's a camera there. You've all been pranked. That's what I'm just waiting for. And I think that's pretty fun. I also think this book was meant to secretly, like inadvertently, make me ship Illyana and Nico, even though I love.
Oh my God!
Carolina.
Yes,
Lord! Oh, Lord!
Oh my God! That scene, I was like, oh, are they gonna hook up? Are we gonna get confirmation of bisexual Illyana for reals? For reals?
Is Nico currently still with Carolina?
No, but she's gay enough.
Last time I read they were together.
At least we know Nico has a type.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, when you're a Nico, your type is everyone.
And Illyana has a type. She's like, I like girls who are kind of gay.
You need to be kind of gay and have a pulse. Okay, good. Let's go.
Kind of gay has a pulse and can also kick my ass.
Mm-hmm.
That's
inherited a magical object.
Yeah. Oh, she better watch out. She's gonna give her the soul sword.
Is that what we're calling now?
Oh my God! And the staff of one, really, big old hole at the top, or giant plug version, whatever you need. I should not have done that motion, but
It was like a reverse plumber toilet thing.
Yeah, it's just it's just gay plungers all the way up, and
just turning butter.
Speaking of butter.
No. I can't even ask if y'all have ever touched one. Like, what the fuck?
I'm gonna say, speaking of, have you ever touched butter? I've touched butter.
I have touched butter before.
A butter churn? Like
a butter churn.
I did it once in like elementary school.
Yeah, I've been to one of those old recreation villages where they let you, on a field trip and you go churn butter.
Yeah.
I'm bad at it. I did not stay at the village. I came here and started getting on camera with you people because that's way more fun than churning butter.
Because you could have turned the butter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay, hold on. Let's go back to butter for a second. I wanna stress that the butter goodness of Ileana's new costume, and then I want to be like, and they were like, all right, but what if Ileana had this cute new costume and we put her in it for this issue, and then we said, fuck your new costume. How do you feel about going into an old X-Force look? And she was like, all right.
Horny for it.
How do you guys feel?
This book, like I want to like it. At the same point in time, you actually watch Wolverine become self-aware in real time and look, he actually seems to almost break fourth wall and go, why the fuck am I here again? What am I doing here? I can't slash anything. This is all magic. My claws are going right. They're useless. Like Blade is like the second most useless because again, can't literally punch it.
Actually, hold on. We've discovered that when Blade needs to, Blade can turn into a giant cloud of gas and has super strength and can carry things. He did it in Heroes Reborn. He turns into a giant cloud of gas and he picks up Captain America and they fly through the day.
Hey, it's not gas, it's mist. He has spirit qualities. It's mist.
It's mist.
But what is the mist made out of? Is it gas or is it fog?
It's made of blade.
Yeah, it's little blade particles.
It's blade gas.
It's BLADE. That's its chemical formula. Clunk. So, hard clunk. Everyone's passed out. So, the big thing about this book, right? So we're talking about a book that's literally designed to sell comics. But one of the things that's so fun is that we're laughing about it, and that I really enjoy this conversation because we're not meant to think this book is Watchmen. I mean, if you ask Alan Moore, you're not supposed to think Watchmen is Watchmen. But
don't read it. Don't look at me.
Don't read my book. I don't want your monies. So he just wants his beard. And I think the thing about this book that makes me happy laugh the most is it really is just a good time. And I feel like we don't have enough good times in the Marvel Universe. Kushala flying on a flaming skull. Fun.
The bat dragon. The bat dragon flaming thing.
It
was incredible.
When she told Ileana, she's like, just call me Kushala.
This is what I want. This is exactly. And there are so many women featured in this book. They are women who tend to be underlooked, with the exception of Nico, except for the Runaways as a whole are underlooked. And so
Ileana.
Well, that's Ileana being somebody who, we keep saying, why doesn't she have her own book, or why isn't she really anchoring a book, not just featured in a book the way cool X-Men characters get featured in a book? What a great place for her. Nico and I have been shouting about how Kushala should be in a book. What a great place for her. And these people are all getting really solid screen time. And it doesn't feel it feels like Wolverine is there, basically to trick people who are I buy anything I see Wolverine in.
Even he confused.
Yeah.
I love that.
He doesn't get it. So the whole point is some dude who's I don't read books with girls in them. Oh, look, Wolverine. And then you discover that this is just fun.
I always think Wolverine can fight Doctor Doom. That's the cover I need. Wolverine versus Doctor Doom. Because you can always beat Doctor Doom with a set of knives.
Oh my god, okay. Dr. Doom is such a wuss. He gets hit once. He literally, the moment he get hit once, he's like, well, fine, I don't need to be here. I'm going home. I'm like, you little bitch.
My ex-wife's not here, so I'm leaving.
Right? You hit me in the Zed Putty Z, so I'm done.
Oh my god.
But so Jonah, you must have a terrible idea of who Doctor Doom is at this point, because you only ever read Doctor Doom come into a book and be like, well, what in the name of Eastern Europe are you people doing? This is my cape. and then just like leaves. I can't imagine you have any sense of who Doctor Doom fucking is.
So I'm going to say a very bold statement, and this.
Say it.
So, what I've read most of Doctor Doom, he acts very much like Wanda. He comes into a problem that he was not involved in, he has no business being there, shows up, makes a mess, complains, and then just leaves by making things worse. So yeah, maybe at this point I do understand why they were married at some point.
Yep, you nailed it. That's
It's
not
a reverse
even,
Tuxedo Mask.
Yeah, and that's like not that is actually the correct idea of Doctor. That's not the one they want you to have, but it is the correct one. So you have been paying attention, and you know, Marvel, if you want us to get a different idea of Victor, stop writing this exact story with him in it 500 times.
Dr. Doom is a big pouty baby who sometimes has some grandmaster plans, but oftentimes is like, "Fuck it, this is too hard. I'm going away. Bye."
But then also has the nicest soft spot for both Franklin and Valeria.
True.
Well, he loves Valeria.
I feel like
That's
he does
her
not
Uncle
have a
Vic.
soft spot for Franklin.
No, yeah, he's very. I tolerate your brother, but I love you.
You're so smart. I love you.
The very fact that I think it was Kushala or Magic tell him to go back to his castle and wait for the next time for the Fantastic Four to whoop his ass. I died laughing so hard.
So now I have a serious question about this book, though. Serious. One of the things that we've seen happen in Marvel Comics is when you don't want it or when you don't expect it is when it catches. But when you assume it's going to be a clunk is when it's huge. You know what I mean? Like Miles Morales has introduced an Ultimate Fallout #4. I don't know that everybody knew he was going to become the definition of a Spider-Man. You know, they knew he'd be popular, but I think they just thought he was slotting in another character. We've seen it time and time again. They thought Krakoa was going to last a year and a half, you know, but this series actually in a lot of ways has the makings of Marvel vs. Capcom and Infinity Saga, where everybody always says to me, "Oh, I remember back when Shuma Gorath fought the X-Men," and I'm like, "Well, you're fucking stupid because you don't. It didn't happen. You're thinking of the time your buddy chose Shuma Gorath and you chose Wolverine, and he used a combo on you, and it really left a lasting impression." Because, yeah, they didn't fucking fight. That wasn't a thing. But I think this miniseries and game is coming out at right the TikTok now in a way that's going to ultimately imprint on a generation of people. And I would love to know, what do you guys hope that this book rots for the future? For me, it's I hope people think when they think like Blade and Wolverine and a Ghost Rider, I hope they think Kushala and Nico and Zoe and Ileana. I think that would be really cool. How about you guys?
Like, I want people to get to know these characters because I think these are desperately underutilized characters in a lot of ways, save for Wolverine. Okay, he's everywhere. It's weirdly like the fact that Magic literally just, "Give me a second, I'll be right back," pops over and grabs his dumb ass and brings him back, and he's like, I don't know why I'm here, but okay. Like, I want people to get to know these characters because they are interesting. But at the same point in time, like some of these characters, I think they would have been utilized better in a few years instead of right now. Because right now it's a really weird kind of unbalanced situation. Like especially Zoe, like because they took Zoe from being, "Hey, I'm a school kid and I'm getting to know my powers and getting all," to holy fuck, you want to talk about laying down some fucking magic powers right there. Holy shit. Like, oh, okay. You apparently have a lot of potential, but it's like, it's kind of all over the place. And I think she would have been used better in a couple years when we actually had a better scale for like what her powers are actually supposed to be versus, you know, just kind of here's what could happen. It's like, give me a little bit more because I need more development for that character specifically because she's so young.
I agree,
and we may end
Raven.
up getting. Oh, sorry, Jonah, go ahead.
Oh, I have to agree with you, Raven. I think as much as I enjoy her appearance here, Zoe feels out of place because it feels the scale of what they're trying to make her in this book doesn't match a lot of previous characterization, and that's fine. But I don't think we're going to get this characterization, this power level, over in Strange Academy Finals or any Here to comics after. It's going to feel a little off to see her so powerful here, and then comparatively not as powerful over in the title that we're most know her from. I also think this title utilizes characters, as we keep saying, underutilized well, who are standouts in different things they appear in, that I am really happy that they get to be here. But I do think where a little bit of a fault is we're clashing, where I love it, but maybe someone else isn't as happy. We talk about how we're using Wolverine to sell this book, but if you look at all three covers, Ileana is forefront and center in most of these, and she's very visible and clear. And so she's another character I think they like to really utilize to sell things, but I really would love to see a really good take on her. And I think this title would have been really great because she doesn't have a lot of competition for characters that need that often hog the spotlight. I think she often takes the spotlight in ways that aren't the most. I think there are other ways that I think she takes the spotlight other than like a really great character moments. And I think this title could have been a really great use of like for all these characters, but Ileana specifically, because she is so utilized in promotion that I think she kind of deserves like a really good just story all on her own. Or
and
with,
why isn't she wearing her new outfit?
She's like half wearing it because she's wearing.
No, not on the cover. On the cover, that is her old outfit.
I think that's part of the solicit thing. So they solicit those so far ahead of time that they had to solicit it before the new outfit was revealed. So
but the new cover, was revealed a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
like they
so
must
this
have
was
had
probably this was probably written and drawn to be in time with the original launch of the game, like 8 or 9 months ago. Yeah. So this has probably been in a drawer for like a year.
Okay.
So they went and they changed the art on the in-story costume, but not on
the
costume.
But I mean, I'm sorry, there could have been an edit. Like it's been a couple months since
pay somebody for it.
There could have been an edit. Marvel, you're making more than enough to pay somebody to go in and just even gently overlay or gently alter the color of what she's wearing. That would have honestly sufficed to me if they had changed the color, because she is now very boldly the gold with the black accent. So like give me a little, make it look like you've put in the effort to make sure that your covers are actually starting to match with your content. If not, it starts reading like 1940s comic book covers. We're going to give you, oh, well, what if Aquaman was killed by Superman in the desert? And then you go in and the story has nothing to do with whatever that front cover was.
There's one panel of Aquaman like really thirsty and Superman punching something unrelated. Right? Yeah.
Like, they do the reality TV thing where they cut around it.
Exactly.
It's one thing, but then you actually see it play out, and you're like, none of this happened the way you promoted this.
Yeah.
It says, you hear the person say, "It's over," and then you watch the episode, and it's the person saying, "I'm not saying it's over." And Montreal, as producer Kevo just shouted in. All right, Nathan, TK, final thoughts, and then we're hitting that commercial.
I'm gonna say, to me, it's a pretty fun story. There's one character that I think is way missing, especially because she's going to be in the game. And since Agatha Harkness has such a huge tie into this book, and she teaches at the fucking Strange Academy, I think Wanda Maximoff needed to be featured in this book. I get maybe the writer didn't think they could find a way to not have her overshadow the book itself, but considering her role with Agatha and Agatha's role in this, and her role in the Strange Academy and her role in the game, she should have been in this comic. That's my only complaint, and if that's my only complaint, that's amazing.
I think this book and this time is a real interesting hub for what Marvel needs to do as a company with synergy, and some of that is cynical, and the fact of the matter is Ileana on those covers is very cheesecakey, and there is a certain class of horny individual that might be picking that up clearly based on how she is drawn, which it may be one of the reasons that it was not changed. And that's that's cynical in that way of like, I hate it. But there are other things about this, like, de-aging Agatha Harkness, that are kind of cynical in a way that I love it, because we're not really getting anything out of old Agatha Harkness, and we can get a ton of mileage out of young Agatha Harkness. We've got a game, we've got the MCU. I actually think it is possible that we will see Wanda, but if we don't, she's had a lot of MCU time and she gets a lot of book time. So maybe the thought was like, we don't need to overcrowd. This is just something very interesting for us to pay attention to, because we are not, most of us, I think, really that age where we're going to be like, boy, do I remember. But there are kids out there that this is going to be their Marvel versus Capcom, where reading the books for the first time, playing the game, getting into the MCU, it's all coming together at once. And I'm just kind of paying attention to how that plays out for all of this stuff. And, I'm really, really excited to play the game. We're going to be playing some of it live on our channel, so look out for that. And, this is just a really fun time, and I can't wait for more.
Nico, you're on mute.
You're muted, buddy.
Until we come back for a little bit more. I think it's pretty much the same people.
Yeah, it's us again.
Talking the same shit. But hey, everybody, check out this amazing commercial about some of the other phenomenal products you can find here on Hubs Plus Network. Okay, so I'm so excited to talk about Ghost Rider because TK and I have been doing this for the last 6 months. This is the weirdest little book. It is the strangest little Marvel horror story you've ever read, and it's just so wacky. And TK and I have been talking about this book forever. I am just so fucking amused. So I think what's going on here is I think, Nathan, you're our designated listener, and you're going to do your best to follow along. TK and I have been reading this since #1, so we've read all 9 issues because there was a one-shot in between a 2-part arc that didn't make any sense there. That's, of course, the arc where Wolverine goes to hell alongside Boom Boom, Doctor Doom, Doc Ock, Blade, and a bunch of other people so they can have a motorcycle race.
What?
It's a motorcycle race in hell for the power of riding a motorcycle in hell. That's all that's at stake.
Why have I not seen experts talking about this? That sounds crazy. Boom Boom in hell on a motorcycle.
And Multiple Man in his 90s costume.
What?
In the trench coat. And only Wolverine really knows Johnny Blaze. It's the dumbest thing. I mean, it's very good, but it is very good, and I was very positive about it, but it is sort of the dumbest thing that there's no one else in the Marvel universe that you could use but Wolverine. Anyway, now, Jonah, I believe you've read an arc of this? 2 arcs?
Yeah.
And so I would love to get everybody to weigh in, starting with Jonah.
So I read about 2 arcs. I read from issues 5 through 8. And what I found about this was that I don't know if it was intentional, but these felt so reminiscent as a love letter to sci-fi horror, because there were references to Alien, there were references to Terminator, there were references to what I would imagine would be like The Fly. It was like a lot of body horror, a lot of, we're going to put Johnny Blaze through a lot of hell, literally and metaphorically, and we're also going to get some sci-fi disgustingness in there, which I really kind of appreciated. And I was like, oh, I actually kind of like this. This is really nice. The only thing that did confuse me is, and this is like more of a nitpick and kind of like a is they were like, yeah, Ghost Rider, you're the king of hell. And I was like, he's not Damien's father. That's not Damien Hellstrom's father.
And he's not even king of hell anymore.
He was king of hell at one point, which is a whole Avengers thing that we don't need to get into. But yeah, there's also that, like, the classic king of hell that we prefer to think of, 100% not him.
Wait. He's not king of hell anymore after Damnation? Wait, what? And like in the Avengers, he was king of hell. What did I miss?
He's just not anymore.
He gives it up at the end.
What?
Yeah. It's that arc is not well written. Like, we were not super positive on it because, yeah, it doesn't really get us to the conclusion. Like, it doesn't make that conclusion clear, but he did kind of. This is very helpful.
Oh my God! I need to read that issue where Boom Boom goes
at
to
the
hell.
race.
What the hell? Boom Boom in hell? Oh my God!
You know, Jonah, I want to echo what you said insofar as, like, more shots from the race.
Oh my God! It is bad 90s X Factor. Oh,
I have had some real question marks about Percy's contribution to X canon, which have been many. Some of them I think are really phenomenal. Some of them sort of go to places that I wish they wouldn't go, not in like a challenging way, but in maybe a kind of it doesn't feel right way. He is a phenomenal horror writer, and you're right. Those references are all there because he's a horror novelist, he's a horror fan, and he knows how to pull that stuff and reference it in really savvy ways for horror stories. You see that in his fiction, and you see that in his Ghost Rider. And one of the things that has been really weird about doing this coverage is it'll be, a week where we go into an X Factor and Wolverine room where I'm so negative because I just am uncomfortable with where we are. And then we get into Ghost Rider, and I think, like, this is one of the most important writers in the Marvel Universe, but for this genre.
Okay, I love that because that's been my hesitation for reading Ghost Rider.
Yeah, I can understand why.
I love some of what he does. Like, I'm probably one of the few who really loved him doing the Wolverine Vampire arc because I really loved how he dived into the horror of it. And I know everybody was like, "Oh, Wolverine and vampires," but like the whole X-Force, like with where Hank McCoy, like, I'm not totally digging that vibe. So, like, okay, thank you. That is good to know.
Can I ask a very quick question?
Oh, of course.
So, especially especially because we covered Midnight Suns, how do the different Ghost Riders work? Are they all the same spirit of vengeance? Because I know.
Nope, they're all actually different spirits of vengeance. That's a great question. And there's spirits of vengeance, and then there's Ghost Riders proper, and there's Zarathos is Ghost Rider proper as his spirit of vengeance.
That's Johnny's.
That's Johnny's, right? Yeah. But now it turns out
Steve was telling me Danny Ketch has a different one too.
Yes, and Michael Battolino.
Danny Ketch has a different spirit. He has a spirit of but he once had Zarathos,
and now Robbie is the All Rider, which is a different ability set altogether, and Robbie is the All Rider.
Kushala is her own thing because she's not only a spirit of vengeance but also a sorcerer supreme, and she kind of shifts and moves through time. So yeah, it's a whole its own thing.
Okay, what about the Aaron Ghost Riders? Are those Zarathos, or is Zarathos the protector of Earth Force, or
Okay, well now we have to do this. We'll have a Ghost Rider special.
Yeah,
we'll just have to have a Ghost Rider special.
Because I think one other thing that's really important to point out that has not contributed to any of this now, but I think will, Banshee over in the pages of Legion of X is the Spirit of Variation, which is literally not literally, it is essentially mutant Ghost Rider. And that this idea of spirits of thing is becoming an important build up from multiple spirits of vengeance, because there are other Ghost Riders too, like Michael Battolino has a different spirit of vengeance. So I think we are at a place where if they wanted to, they could really expand this canon. And I am actually, to take it back to where we are, I'm excited that that's not what this book is. I'm excited that this is a small story for Johnny Blaze, who kind of sucks conceptually, and we kind of could really stand to lose. But if somebody in, editorial says, we're not going to lose him for whatever reason, here's a great dude to write that dude, and to, for instance, not write Kushala, who, again, give it to a native woman. There are so many amazing ones that are associated with Marvel. Give us a Kushala book like this, please, but give us a writer that can write from her perspective the way that I think really Ben Percy is a great person for Johnny Blaze's perspective.
I'd love Rebecca Roanoris after the Echo miniseries to do that.
And speaking of women whose perspective is amazing, Raven, what is your relationship with this ghost riding? Were you all about ghost riding this whip, or were you like, I can't with this hoopty?
I just thought if I played dead for a minute, you'd go away.
She possummed it.
So here's the hilarious thing. I started reading comic books roughly 30 years ago. Johnny Blaze was my Ghost Rider growing up. So, when I came back into comic books after taking a bit of time off, I'm just like, who the shit are all these new people? Why? Okay, they're good, they're fine, they're definitely their own thing, but I'm just like, but where's Johnny? I was waiting for Johnny. So to see Johnny come back, I'm like, wow, you really paid attention. You really got his kind of flavor and the way he does things, because he was always a deeply flawed character. So fucking deeply flawed in how he used his powers or how he could use his powers. They were not just on tap, easy to access. It had to be the blood of the innocent was spilled and some horrible thing was going down. And she's like, hey, I need you to do your thing, do the poof, do the magic. Hello, flame. And he's like, it doesn't work like that. There needs to be motivation here. And she's like, for fuck's sake, okay, let's find you some motivation. It's
horniness, the best motivation.
Let's arouse your rage.
See, I was all about when I started reading, it was Danny Ketch, so I was like, who's Johnny? And then I smiled in my special way. So
Did you just say that I smiled in my special way?
Yes. Yes, I did, Nico.
Yeah, you just did a Who's Johnny reference. I'm actually paralyzed. My hands don't work anymore.
Well, I was imagining Johnny Blaze breaking down a door with an axe and his motorcycle saying, "Here's Johnny." No.
Oh my god.
By the end of this book, knowing how Ben Percy likes his pulls, that's not an unreasonable expectation. We could definitely get there.
So here's my question. Talia Warroad. She is, for me, one of the most Vertigoian things to ever be at Marvel.
Yeah.
She is a hard ass who could give John Constantine a run for his money. She's everything I'm looking for from a book like this. But what kills me is I think she would be just as great a lead as any Ghost Rider would. A woman whose journey is parallel and alongside witnessing so much of this Marvel magic and being magic in her own way and what she brings to the title. I almost regret that she's in this where she's overshadowed by Johnny and the Ghost Rider kind of mythos. How do you guys feel about him essentially sharing this lead with a woman who is in many ways more masculine and kind of aggressive than he is?
I don't even think I have a lot of thoughts, if you guys don't mind me going on one of my. I don't know why I haven't seen her more. Like, she honestly straight up deserves her own title. She seems far more competent, far more driven. Like, she knows what she needs to do. She knows what she wants to do, or the path that she wants to take to do it. And she just needs to get there. And like, she's willing to risk some pretty serious shit. She knows that she's fucking with a spirit of vengeance. She knows that she's fucking with a ghostwriter here, and that could go horrifyingly wrong. And she's still like, no, we got to get this shit done. There's no pussyfooting. Let's do this. So the fact that he's like, oh, but I don't know, but I can't just bring it out. You know, I'm not always angry. Like, and she's like, yeah, okay, no, we're not doing this noise. We're doing that. I'm like, she is so gorgeous and wonderful, and like, she knows what the fuck she is. She knows what the fuck she's doing. I don't think they're sharing the title. I think the title should have gone to her. Like, Johnny seems a little bit, at least right now, Johnny seems a bit more tagging along or being brought along versus actually leading the book. Like, and I love her. I'm really, really loving her. So.
And that's, I think, both a mix of intentional in a good way and kind of also unintentional in a good way. This book has just been happening to Johnny. And I think that has been the point of Johnny for a while as Ghostwriter. Like, when Nico started making me do all this Ghostwriter reading, it really was when we were doing a lot of Kushala stuff. And when Kushala and Johnny are together, stuff is just happening to Johnny. Kushala is always like, I'm in control of both our Ghostwriter shit and magic shit, so I'll help you, whatever. Talia kind of ends up serving a similar role in this story, and the reason, by the way, why you haven't seen her more is because she's literally just from this. She is a Percy original, so this could be her jumping off point. And you know, it's funny, every book that we've talked about here that has featured some really incredible magical women, she could be on any of those teams in any of those stories. You know, she showed up talking to Clea and Strange and Wong about magic stuff. Yes, if she were a Midnight Sun, absolutely.
And she was smacking the shit out of Nico Minoru, so she wasn't just such an emo little bitch sitting on the sidelines whining about her fucking wand that she jettisoned into fucking space.
Explaining the difference between emos and goths, and, you know, stuff that kids need to know. Yes. So I do think she is overshadowing him in a way that is partially intentional, because she really does have a lot. Her character is supposed to have more agency than, you know, Johnny has been given, because Johnny's never going to be a leading man. At this point, we know that. Robbie as a ghostwriter really could be. Johnny can't be. So in his books, he kind of does have to just be the victim of the horrors. And people like this are the ones that sort of have a better grasp on it. And hopefully from there, they can go on to bigger things. What, you know, back to that cynicism of editorial and comics publishing, a lot of times there's just that feeling of like, well, there has to be a guy there. It's got to be Ghostwriter. It can't be Talia Warroad, Agent of Wand. But I feel like we're watching those things break down more and more. And we can have that Talia book. And I think she is really a character that we could see other places.
Wait, she's an Agent of Wand?
I made it up.
That would be fantastic.
I was like, wait, what?
Jonah, how do you feel about Talia? I'm wondering, is she your new personal stand-in? Are you just going to start being Jonah Warroad?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I think so. Potentially. Who knows at this point? I know Johnny doesn't. But what I do know is that Talia is a very fascinating character to be introduced. One of the things I would love to talk about is her character design. She has very interesting character design choices that I don't think you see many in a lot of visual media where you'll see characters pop up by many different artists. One of the things I noticed is that she has a lot of tattoos, and there are very few please correct me if I'm wrong, but there are very few comic characters who have tattoos. Part of that being you have to draw that consistently every time that character shows up. And the only one who I can really think of is, because his tattoo is a little bit more simplistic, that you can, the way it's drawn is Akihiro / Fang. He's the only one that I can think of. So her seeing her with, and K Pride, but knuckle tattoos.
And Bishop, which I mean, even there they don't always draw his tattoo.
That
even though it's prominently on his face.
It's a fucking phantom M. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's taking a vacation, you know.
Psylocke for a while had the whole like Crimson Dawn thing, and then it like came and went. They did the whole Phoenix tattoo for Rachel for a while.
So you're right, Jonah. Every time someone has a tattoo, they get rid of it.
Yeah, they do. They do. You are absolutely right.
This is a lot of tattoos and probably a very painful, expensive surgery to get rid of all the tattoos that she currently has. But I think her character design does wonders in explaining kind of who she is, especially for somebody who is a character who's completely original to the story and being introduced. I think her design speaks wonders of the artistic ability of the art team to create this character, this woman who's very strong, very powerful, very domineering, very dominant, and very much like a no shit kind of person. And I think her character design really speaks well to that kind of characterization. And it's a very big follow through that Ben Percy gives her in the writing. So I think I'm really appreciative that we have this strong female character that's kind of bouncing off of Johnny. What I find so fascinating about this is that what we're talking about is this might be called Ghost Rider, and Johnny is the protagonist, but it's not his story. It's Talia's story. Johnny's just kind of there and the vehicle, so to speak, insert pun, that to allow us to go through Talia's story of what she's currently trying to help the FBI with, right? She's currently acting as an agent for the FBI?
Yeah, FBI.
So I think that is so interesting because I don't know if, I will be honest, I don't know, for me, Johnny is the most interesting Ghost Rider. So seeing him take a more passive role, a la the way that I saw a lot of people wrote women in comics years ago, but still be able to hold his own and still have this strong female character basically lead his own story, I think it's really fascinating. I actually think it works wonders for this title.
And I love that. And I can't wait to see the future of this book. I have been so excited covering it with TK, and now to bring in more people that, you know, Nathan, it has you at least interested in seeing what's happened. That, Jonah, you gave 4 issues a try. I'm just so excited to see more people give other forms of Marvel a chance. Not that, you know, anybody here is closed-minded, but just that you got to be convinced to try a book sometimes. And it's so exciting that everybody did. And I would love to get everybody's final thoughts as we wrap up our second live episode of Exodus for Podcast.
Yeah, I mean, this has been such an amazing journey into the darker side of magic. You know, magic at Marvel, I really see it more as horror and fantasy, and fantasy's killing it right now. We really talked about some great fantasy stuff. I think we are seeing all the ways in which horror can absolutely be at the same level as magic stories. And I think Percy is a fantastic writer for that. I know there are others. We have like really scraped the surface of a few. Werewolf at Night is in the mix. There's some great options, but we are not there at the same level. And Ghost Rider is one of those titles that gives me a lot of hope. We didn't get to talk about it, but some point I'm going to need an explanation for why Lord Zed is a truck and says Johnny Blaze is him. I guess we'll learn as time goes on, but man, the body horror is so correct. And, you know, horrifying truck monster muscle person and like Johnny vomiting chains. There's just some dynamite imagery in here. And I can't wait for more of it.
All right. So everything you have described, I'm going to have to pick up some of the series because holy shit, like that is fucking fantastic. And you know what? I have to say, Ben Percy, I've loved his forays into horror more than I've loved a lot of his other stuff. So like whenever X-Force or Wolverine is streamed more into horror, that is always something I've loved. Johnny Cage is a character that like I just recently like started getting more interested in because Steve made me watch the Nick Cage movies, which are actually amazing.
They are so amazing. Stupid good. They are dumb good. So
everybody's like, those movies are so bad. They are so good. Okay?
They're a national treasure.
Yeah, but like, so
I'm
gonna give this a try. Especially, I gotta see Boom Boom in Hell. Like, that's amazing.
Jojo, Boom Boom in Hell, do it.
Yes, Boom Boom was there. Also, Man Thing. Bullseye.
Riding a motorcycle.
I love Man-Thing.
It was Rhino on a Rhino motorcycle. Wasn't like an actual rhino. That would have been very funny. It was just a very like there was a weird like in that specific comic issue. There was a very weird amount of comedy of who these characters, why exactly they're there. Some more deserving than others, I guess. Who knows? Everybody deserves a chance in hell. That's my take. A weird take for the day. But I was really pleasantly surprised with this, at least the 4 issues I read, as a interesting love letter to sci-fi horror, and how do you bring that to Marvel in a way where the titular character of Ghost Rider doesn't really have to be the main character of this story.
Raven, bring us on home.
I love Marvel. I love the way they are trying to lean into some more of the magic and horror side of things. And this is controversial. I don't think they're leaning into it hard enough. They're going right along that edge, but they're keeping it so PG-13. And I'm like, the impact that you could make if you would just go ahead and admit this is not for kids. This is an adult's book, and really just leaned into that. I think you'd make amazing strides forward with what you actually want to do, because you can tell that they want to tell this visceral, dark, gritty story, but they're still keeping it like PG-13. And I'm like, a lot of this body horror shit, a lot of this, like, you know, these animals that are just stripped of all, you know, fur, and just all you see is muscle and bone and sinew. Like, lean into it. Admit that it's an adult's book, lean into it, and just take it to the nth level, because it would be fucking phenomenal.
I agree. I've loved covering this book. I hope you guys want to come back for some more Ghost Rider in the future. And I love this new format. I cannot get enough of it. Getting to talk with you guys, see your faces, getting to talk with you. This is the best. I can't wait to do this every week. I know we've got weeks with Avengers. We've got weeks with Unlimited. We got all sorts of books coming your way. And from everybody here at the X-Pack, and you can check us out at xisforpodcast.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for 2+ hours, checking out the cut down available during the week. And there's Kevo, our amazing producer. Just
Kevo.
Round of applause for Kevo.
And yeah, until next time, keep those mutant lights lit. Those Krakoan gateways open. Remember, X is for Podcast is live Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, and we'll see ya.